I haven't seen you in a while. We haven't talked in a while. Uh, for those that don't know who you are, let's kick this off with just a little background, real quick. Um, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I guess a lot of guys, a lot of you guys probably know me from Toy Fair and San Diego Comic Con. I was with Mezco Toyz. I was a project manager with them, handling 112. Um, it was an awesome experience. I'm glad I had it. I haven't been with Mezco since May of last year, um, but I've been in the toy. I don't want to say the toy industry because that was my first industry job, but I've been in and around the business for a while. Working on customs, just knowing people in the business, kind of, being a part of the culture, the nerd culture, whatever you want to call it. So while the job was a new thing, it wasn't new as an experience for me being in the business.
So that was your first, I guess you could say, big company that you were with.
Yeah, it was my first job in the industry. I actually started
Okay.
working there in as part of Mezco Direct. So I was doing the warehouse stuff, shipping
Okay.
orders and stuff like that, and sort of worked my way up into sales and then into project management.
Okay. And how long were you with them?
I was there 11 years,
Okay.
so it's a long time.
That's a long time. A long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you worked your way up over there. Um, yeah. That's where I met you. That's where
Hmm.
a lot of guys know you from. And I actually shared this with a lot of the Mezco groups. So that they could see, because guys, you obviously, me and Pierre, we chatted before this, and he was surprised that I wanted to talk to him and just catch up and hear what's been going on with him. And he's like he was just surprised about it. And I was like, yeah, of course, like you're one of the most like down to earth guys. And whenever I've been in any of the conventions or any of the events, I would always say hi to you. We'd always chat for a little bit.
Yep.
I was a little disappointed towards the end, not in you, but at the end where we weren't able to do interviews. I was like, I'd come up and be like, "Yo, can we talk?" And you're like, and I could see it was like, you wanted to, but you couldn't. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I won't get too much into the decisions that were made because it's not really my story to tell. Um, I have to say, doing the press was always nerve wracking for me. Meeting people, handshaking, walking them through the product lines was always nerve wracking for me.
mhm.
So it was actually nice that I didn't have to do the interviews,
Okay.
but at the same time, I felt the responsibility to because I've been doing them from the beginning, and I thought it was important. Um, I think it's an important sort of front facing. How do I say this? I think it's really important for companies to have that front facing guy who will
Mhm.
talk to everyone and make people feel welcome. I think it makes the company better. I think of people like Randy from NECA,
Mhm.
or when Jesse was at Toy Biz. He made
Mhm.
those guys make the companies accessible.
They were the
And
face of the companies.
yeah, I mean, even I don't want to say I was the face of Mezco because I was not. I have always said that I was part of a team, and the
A team.
product wasn't good because of me. It was always a group project. But I think it's important that people look at a company and feel welcome. And I always thought that after that was my responsibility, the giving of press tours. I figured that I just felt like that was important. I was sad to see it go for that reason.
Mhm. Now you said you were the guy that did that. You were pretty much, from the time you took over that position, the guy, right?
Well, I was doing Toy
Like
Fair.
like Drake didn't really do the interviews much.
He used to. He used to, and
Okay.
then I started doing them when I was in sales, and then I started doing them. Um, I guess I was, yeah. I mean, we were both still doing them. Drake still would do them, but then the edict came down that no one was going to do interviews, so I think that stopped across the board.
Okay. It, I know you said you don't want to get into it. Was there like a specific event that happened, or it was just like, hey, we want to just show the products and just kind of
I
let the
think
products talk for themselves.
I think it was definitely that. I think there's also how do I put this? it wasn't my choice to make. The choice was made, and I was fine with it because it's not my company. You know, if you tell me to do
Of course.
something and I work for you, then I'm going to do that thing.
Of course.
And I think there was a way. I think I was probably too maybe open with information. I think there was some stuff that maybe he wanted to play closer to the vest or just didn't want out there.
Okay.
And that's just not the way I talk to people. If I'm talking to you, I'm gonna probably tell you stuff that I shouldn't tell you. So it was a call on his part.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So all right, so you've parted ways with Mezco, and now what are you doing?
I've been doing a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of
Okay.
sort of freelance gigs, smaller things here and there. Right now, I'm working with a company called Lineage Studios, as back on the sales side of things. And they do a lot of posters and pins and statues. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. They've got this great form factor called figure pins, which are basically like carded figures, but they're pins. It's a great idea. It wasn't pins are not my thing, but I saw those.
Now they're a different company than Figpin, right? Figpin is a whole different company.
Yep.
Okay, but similar type of style.
Similar type of style. I think they're the only people that are doing the figure pins, which is
okay.
It's just a cool idea to me because you can collect carded figures without having a giant card. It's a smaller form factor. It's neat. It's neat. I don't want to be a company shill, but it's cool.
I did look them up, and for somebody like me and you that like that retro throwback, I definitely like that. The one that like stuck out with me was like the Streets of Rage. Is that the figure pins? That's the same ones. Okay, yeah. The Streets of Rage ones were really cool, and there was a couple other ones. A lot of like the retro stuff.
They brought really the Power Rangers also, which is cool.
The Power Rangers. That was I was trying to think of what the other one was. They had like the whole set of the Rangers and everything. And actually, it's pretty cool because not to throw it out there before I know for sure, but like I've been talking to somebody, and the way I have like you come on, and I talked to, I don't know if you saw, I talked to Zach Oat from DST the other day. So some of the Time Force Rangers might come on and do a little chat. So awesome. we're gonna the company looks really cool. So you're doing some work with them. You have your hand in any other projects?
Apart from personal projects, no. I mean, I've always been customizing, and I'm doing that sort of behind the scenes, but I was doing that when I was at Mezco. I consider that sort of like, I wouldn't be me if I wasn't doing that stuff. So even if I don't say it, I'm always doing that kind of stuff.
What type of customs are you doing? Or do you do?
I'm known as Air Max Animated. You can find me on Facebook, but I do a lot of G.I. Joe Transformer crossovers, and I don't want to just make the figure, so I'm making them carded. Like I have a friend of mine who does the illustration for the character, and I put the cards together, and I'll make 8 or 10 or 15 of them and sell them.
See, that's something that I didn't know. Now I'm gonna have to look them up.
Oh, look at that! That's actually how I started.
Yeah.
I was like, way back, probably. I don't know if you remember Raving Toy Maniac. It was a message board, like way back in the late '90s. That's where I started. That's where my internet sort of. That was my hangout on the internet when the internet first was a thing.
Okay.
And I was customizing from back then, and I met Jesse DeStasio on that site, and that's how I got the job at Mezco. So it's sort of like, intertwined. My whole experience in the toy industry was intertwined from the beginning.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a Joe fan, and we actually spoke with Bobby Valla a couple days ago as well. And me and you, we've spoke about the Joes. I was actually telling Bobby that we talked about it the one time, and I would have loved to see like a Mezco version of G.I. Joes.
I know.
That was something that we definitely were kicking it about. So now that I know, and I'm disappointed I haven't known all this time, I'm gonna definitely check it out. How are you and the family doing?
We're good. My wife actually had we think she had COVID-19, so we spent the last 3.5, 4 weeks pretty much under house quarantine. We weren't leaving the house. She was, for the most part, she was fine. But it didn't seem to matter if you were healthy or not in terms of the the death rate. It was like people were healthy and they would go to the hospital,
Yeah.
come back home, and then die overnight. So it was a little iffy, and it was scary. But she's better now. Fingers crossed that we keep going in that direction.
She had the fevers, loss of taste or smell.
She never had the fever. She had tightness in her chest, problems breathing. That was the major thing, and that actually sent her to the hospital a couple of times. And they tested her one time, and it came back negative. But then they did chest X-rays, and the doctor was like, "It looks like COVID." And apparently, they had patients in the hospital where they would give them 4 or 5 tests before getting a positive test. So, I mean, I can only speak to our experience. It was unpleasant, and I'm glad it's over.
Well, I'm glad that she's feeling better. You haven't come down with any symptoms or anything, right?
No, my daughter and we've been in the house. I mean, my wife was like, sort of secluded in our bedroom, and then my daughter and I had the run of the rest of the place, and somehow
sliding trays of food under the door.
Pretty much, yeah. Like hitting her with a stick. Yeah, get back.
Get back. It's you can laugh about it now, but I know
exactly.
It was something
harrowing, dude. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not really one to. I don't know. It was stressful. I'm glad it's over.
Well, I'm glad that everybody's okay. It's definitely clearly, it's over 60,000 people out there that have terrifying. Expired, and it's definitely a scary time for everybody. And you're right there in like the heart of it. You're still in New York, right?
Yeah, we're in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you're in Brooklyn.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's funny because I keep trying to put it into perspective for my daughter who's 11, and there's no perspective to put it in for her. You can't. There's no framework to put this in because we've never dealt with something like this. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, especially me and you were pretty close in age, and for us, we've never dealt with anything like this growing up. You say your daughter. It's funny when everything first started happening, before it blew up, and they were talking about wash your hands, this and that. I think maybe it was like 1 or 2 cases over here. My daughter's younger than yours, and I was joking around with her all the time because young kids, they don't always wash their hands and whatnot. And I would always tease her, like, you got to wash your hands. You got to do this. You always got to do this. You want to be clean. You want to make sure, you don't catch anything. And then this started happening, and I showed her one day, and it was really just me joking around with her. Of course, my wife yelled at me, but so I pull up a picture of I forget, maybe I did pull up a picture of in China where everybody had the Tyvek suits on, the PPEs and stuff, and I was like, look, if you don't wash your hands, this is what's going to happen. People are dying from not washing their hands, but then they come back reanimated as zombies, and this is and the look on my daughter's face was like, what? And my wife's like, stop doing that. And it's funny because here I am joking about it, trying to get a 6-year-old to put it in perspective, like, you have to wash your hands, you always have to do this. Right. Just like as a father trying to just tell her, like, you just got to be clean. Like, there's no other way about it. Just be clean. And like, I didn't know that 3 months down the road, there was going to be 60,000 plus people dead, and all attributed to the coronavirus or COVID. And it was just me fucking around, messing with my daughter, and
I gotta say, it was on my daughter's radar early on, and like, she's old enough now where she's aware of the news. She doesn't watch the news, but she's aware of what happens. And I catch her and her friends talking about it. And in the very beginning, I was like, don't worry about it. It's, just wash your hands, like you were saying, be safe. It's basically the flu. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it's so weird to think about, like, when I was a kid in the 80s, nuclear war with Russia was that was the thing that would keep me up at night. Not that it was going to happen, but I didn't know it wasn't going to happen. That was my fear. And it's weird to think of this as that's her experience. That's her generation is going to grow up with this thing that they had no control over, that was spiraling out of control. It's weird to think.
Yeah, and for somebody like your daughter, it actually hit a lot. It hit a lot closer to home because your wife actually had it, and I'm sure for her to see on the news, this could have been what could have happened to my mother.
Exactly,
You
exactly.
know,
And we had, I mean, going through it, there were because I mean, no matter how many times you say we'll be okay, one, you can never guarantee that, and two, you can't convince a kid of that because they're going to believe whatever they want to believe. So
yeah, especially
it
at
was
her
rough.
age, she's old enough to
Yep,
know what's going on.
exactly.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like I had it hit my family, but it was my uncle and aunt on the West Coast, and by the time I found out about it, they had already had it. They were like 6 weeks into it, and
Oh
were
wow.
recovering from it.
Oh, they're
And
okay. Good, good, good.
yeah, like I hadn't I nobody had told me, and we just happened to talk to one day, and I think I was talking to my dad, and he told me, and I was like, oh, I was like, well, it would have been nice if somebody just, like, just so we could check on him, So I checked on him, and he's like, nah, I'm good. He's like, everything's, I'm better, and it wasn't. It sounded like your wife, like wasn't one of the worst cases,
Right.
Yeah,
That's the
but
scary thing about it, though, is you didn't know if it was going to be a mild case or a serious case. You had no way of knowing going in. You just knew something was starting, and it's
yeah,
like you
yeah,
just got to cross your fingers and hope for the best. So it was,
yeah.
yeah,
What I, so I was gonna ask, like, um, what have you gotten from all this? But yeah, it's so close to you. Like I'm sure it means a lot more to you. Obviously.
yeah,
But see, today it's where I'm at. I'm in Jersey, and obviously we're just a state apart, and
yep,
we're not as affected as you guys, but we're equally affected here.
right.
And I'm Today I decided I was like, what, I'm gonna sit out on my deck and just get some fresh air. This morning when I got up, it was pouring, and I'm like, guess I'm gonna be inside again. But then it obviously cleared up, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna come out here, get some air while we talk.
Take
Um,
advantage of it. Yeah,
yeah, because I've been getting out of the house, take my daughter bike riding and stuff like that, and just like
right,
around the neighborhood. I don't bring her around anybody. If anybody goes out, to me, my wife. We only go out for food and then just hang out
right.
here. I'm playing a lot of video games.
I hear that. I hear
Definitely been playing a
that.
lot of video games. I haven't played video games in a long time, and now I've been playing. So let's see. We got somebody left. I don't know if you can see over here. There's the comments on the side. If you
Oh
click
no, I
on
can't see
public,
him.
okay. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, you're on your phone. All right. So, collecting to the max. Hey guys, hope all is well and safe. New Jersey firefighter collector here. We ran into each other and went, oh, hey, what's going on, buddy? How are you? You stay safe out there. Please definitely be safe. Thank you for tuning in. So, what do you think about this cancellation of SDCC? I know you're.
I mean, I thought it was sort of it was going to happen even before we heard the news. I don't think
Mhm.
it's surprising. Um, I mean, this has affected everything, so it's not surprising that. I think it's amazing that Toy Fair happened, and then right after Toy Fair, basically the world stopped.
Yeah,
Stopped.
like literally stop. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a shame, like San Diego. If you're in this business or if you're in this culture, San Diego is the mecca. It is the greatest place to go and be amongst your people. So it's a shame that the attendees are not going to have that experience this year, but there was no other choice. You
Yeah.
can't roll the dice and wing it. Let in half the people. Then only 60,000 people. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Because that's almost like the whole convention center there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And we know con crud is real.
yeah, yes, it is.
Um, Now with the company that you're doing some work with now, are as far as distribution with them, have you seen any setbacks, or give me a little bit on what's going on, if you can.
I just started with them, so I
Oh,
can't really speak on them at all.
okay.
But I will say that this is going to affect the business. It's going to affect everyone in a business who has something to sell, whether it's collectibles, whether it's clothing, whether it's cars. um, I mean, China shut down for
Mhm.
weeks to try and flatten the curve, and even though they're back up and running, it's not. I mean, I don't know how much you know from Chinese New Year, but every year the factories close down for
Yeah, they
a
closed
month
down
and a
from
half, two
Chinese New
months.
Year, and then that everything now kind of should have picked up from Chinese New Year, but was shut
Exactly.
down
But
after
even
Chinese.
in even in a good year, if the factory closes down in February and reopens at the end of March or whatever the timeline is, they're not really back up and running until mid-April, end of April. Like they don't come
they're
back
so
and start
behind.
working. It just takes a while to get ramped up. Sometimes the workers don't come back from their break. They go back to their families and are like, you know what, I'm done working at a factory. And they just don't come back. So you get these trained people that know how to do stuff. They go away for Chinese New Year and never come back. So people who come back are brand new. You got to train them up. So it's going to affect everything across the board. It's not like, I mean, I'll use toys, but it's not like you can reopen a toy company and automatically be running at 100% at the factory level.
Yeah, after several months of
exactly. So it's going to take time for that to get back up and running, even down to something like shipping. The shipping is slowed down because they can't just shoot stuff out of China.
Yeah,
because
and
they have
stuff
to
is,
monitor
I'm
what's
sure,
going
held
out.
up in customs and everything, right?
Exactly. So
yeah, I know. Well, I know you can't elaborate on a lot of stuff from Mezco, but people want to hear a little bit about Mezco. Your thoughts here and there. I'm gonna ask you some other questions. By the way,
I will listen to any questions you have. I can't guarantee I can answer it, but I will listen to any question you have.
Okay. No, I was gonna ask you other questions. Just us kind of bullshit. So I can see the chat on here. People are sending messages. Somebody from Northern Ireland says hello.
Right on.
Hello. Thank you. We got some people worldwide. What's going on? Hope you guys are being safe over there. Now, John here says, what are your thoughts with the direction that Mezco is going? And since you left, what are your thoughts on the big push of Gomez and his whole universe? Could you
I love it. I love it. I was not involved in the Gomez push and the 112, the Rumble Society.
Okay.
I knew of it, and I think it's amazing. I mean, I think it's going to be a hotbed for great ideas and terrific figures. I don't think there's a better match of an idea maker and a form factor like 112. I think it's great. When I saw the Baron Benz thing go up, I was watching the video as excited as you guys. I thought it was awesome.
And Darius the Amazing, he linked up.
That dude's putting in work.
Yeah, man. That I when I talked to him, I'm like, dude, you're killing it. And there was a lot of hate that he got that hookup. There was a lot of hate on that.
You know what? If you can hate that dude, there's something wrong with you. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, like we're not gonna get into that. But D's definitely a cool dude. He's always showed me love. I show him some love, and I was very happy for him.
Same.
Now, I don't want to say he was like the underdog to get it, but other people thought they should have been ahead of him to get that. And he's been phenomenal with it. His photography's awesome. Yeah. I'm real happy for him. D, I'm happy for you always when I see you. I always big you up. But yeah, the Rumble Society and everything that was big. Now, what do you think is the licensing behind it? Obviously, they don't have to pay royalties on other brands that like Marvel, DC, Judge Dredd. So a lot of that is going straight into the pocket and being used rather than paying out, right? Or am I?
Theoretically, I mean, I can't really, I can't talk to that because it's not my business. But you're right in that it's not a Marvel and a DC thing. But you still have to sell a product, and you can't create something and say, okay, because this has Marvel's name on it, I'm going to sell it for $85, and I'm going to create this thing. It doesn't have Marvel's name on it, so you can have it for $60.
Yeah.
Because then the customer's going to say, why can't I have the Marvel thing for $60 if you can sell this thing for $60?
Of course.
There's no way to get the right answer. No matter what you do in a business like this, you're going to have people who tell you you're doing it wrong. It's just it's a fact of life.
Give me 1 second. I think we're gonna jump into my kitchen because I think my laptop's gonna go dead. So rather than us going for a minute, come on down, everybody. Hold on. So I got my cord my cord right in here. So we're gonna slide in here. All right. I'm gonna hook that up for a second.
I mean, yeah, she's upstairs. You go check on your sister. It's fine. Yeah, you just have a less sugar.
All right.
Yeah,
There we go. All right. How's that? You good? You can still hear me, see me, and everything?
I can still hear you. Yep.
All right. Even though it was a little nicer outside, don't want this to die. All right. So let's see. We're talking about the Rumble Society and everything. What's one of your favorite projects you worked on while you were there at Mezco?
I think the regular Punisher, the comic-based Punisher, not the classic and not the special ops, but the regular armored Punisher.
Okay.
I just, at the time, with the amount of stuff that we packed him with and the amount of detail he had on him, I thought that was, not only was it fun, but I thought we did a good job at it. Sometimes you have fun and it doesn't turn out great. Sometimes you don't have fun and it turns out amazing, but then your view of that figure is tinted because the experience making it was bad.
Okay.
So that original Punisher Deathstroke was awesome. For some reason, I have a really soft spot for Logan, casual Logan. I don't know why. I've never, like, I love Wolverine. Logan, I'm like, I don't. He's okay.
Not old man. The regular.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why specifically that guy, but I really dug that guy.
I like the samurai one. The samurai one.
Yeah, good call. Yep.
That was a good one.
It's funny because I have memories tied to so many of these projects, and I have positive memories, obviously, but I also have negative memories. So when I think of Samurai Logan, I think of an issue we had in production that stresses me out to this day. So,
would you be able to tell me?
I would prefer not to go into it, I think.
Okay. Now,
I don't know if I should. There's some stuff that's not mine to talk about, so I don't know if I should. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It just seems unfair to talk about.
Now, you still have a relationship with the guys over there? With Mez?
I have a relationship with a few of the guys. Like I'm friends with some of the guys over there, and I was friends with everyone there, but I don't know if I would call everyone to hang out and get a beer, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know, like some people you work with, you'd like them, you'll hang out with them at work, you'll go out and get lunch with them, but you might not get together with them after work to get dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
So I still love everybody there. I have no ill will towards anyone. I hope they feel the same towards me. I don't know, but the people that I'm still in contact with over there are I will say lifelong friends.
Gotcha. So I'm just looking in some of the comments here, and obviously I did ask you one of like your favorite projects over there. So somebody, Pete's Big Pants 99. All right, there, Pete, Big Pants.
Only 99? Come on, Pete.
Only 99. Like, come on, you could have took like 30 off that, and it would have been a lot better name. So he says, like I said before, we're not filtering anything here. Said, can I ask what was your favorite figure license that you were involved in, and if you could do anything at all, what would you love to have a crack at?
My favorite license was Marvel. Just because from growing up, I read all comic books, but I was just a Marvel guy more so than a DC guy. And the people over there are awesome. Not that the people at Warner Brothers are not, but the people at Marvel are just awesome.
A little easier to deal with.
Not even that they're easier to deal with. Sometimes, I mean, there are difficulties with every licensor, but Jesse is over at Marvel, and I've known. I can't say I'm buddy with Jesse, but I've known him since before I was in the business. So It was cool to like sort of complete the circle and be, know him as a fan of the business, and then know him from being in the business. That was
and
cool.
Work with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And a license that I would get the crack at is G.I. Joe. It's always G.I. Joe. If I could do anything
back to G.I. Joe.
Still, I mean, I just think, I don't know how big the market is, but G.I. Joe was the thing that it was my thing growing up. So I would love to do that. Also, an original Image lineup, like the original Spawn, Wildcats, Cyberforce. I love that stuff too. That'd be awesome to see.
Now, what do you think about? Obviously, we all know that Todd McFarlane has launched the Kickstarter for Spawn, and like that thing blew up hours.
Yes.
That thing
Yes.
blew up. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's awesome. How do I put this? I thought it was amazing that he went in with an ask of $100,000. You know what I mean? Like, this is Todd McFarlane you're talking about, one of the biggest comic dudes ever, and he's like, "Let's see if I could make $100,000." And then within minutes, he's got like $2 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, that. It made me proud for the fandom that we represented for a guy like Todd McFarlane. I just thought that was cool.
Sorry, but bugging my door for 1 second.
No problem.
I'm holding the computer right now because obviously I'm a little taller and I don't want to like have you just looking at my chest. I had it propped up on something outside. And I'm like, let me have her grab that real quick. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt you.
No problem. I think it was a great thing. I know people are confused, like, oh, why does Todd McFarlane have to do this? To me, that didn't matter. I was like, he did it. It's successful, and we're going to get a great Spawn figure out of it. The reason he went for Kickstarter is irrelevant to me. I'm going to get this figure, and that's all that's important. I watched an interview with him. He was talking to Pixel Dan. I think he just went up today, and he was saying that he'll never license out Spawn, so you'll never see a Hot Toys Spawn, see 112 Spawn. And I get his point. His point is, I make toys. If I want to make that, I'll do it. But at the same time, I was like, I want to see a 112 Spawn. I would love to see that. I thought that'd be amazing. So I hope he does it.
Spawn. That would be pretty dope.
I agree.
A Hot Toys Spawn.
But at the same time, I totally get it. He's like, I own a toy company. I'm not going to license this out to somebody else. I'll do it.
Yeah. So and beyond like owning the toy company, like that is his. He made Spawn. Like why would he have somebody else make it for him when he's very hands-on with it? And obviously, you've been in the business for a long time. We both know how he's been over the years, where people have done interviews with him. It's like, look, put another one out, put some articulation in it, and he's like, no, if it does this, then that's excellent articulation. It's like it's not the 90s anymore,
Although I will say I mean, he understands his form factor. His form factor is he makes statues, or for a while he did. He just made statues, and that was the thing he did. He did it really well, and he owned the market on that.
Yeah.
And I think he's shown, if anything, that he can do anything. Because now with those Mortal Kombat figures, those are articulated. The Spawn figure that's in Matt is super articulated. His Kickstarter Spawn figure is super articulated. So I think, maybe he felt like he didn't have to add articulation before, but he's doing it now. So I'm not going to fault him for it.
Yeah, obviously, because people were buying it when he came out, and he made like I think a couple years ago he made like that Commando Spawn or like a heavy artillery Spawn, and there was like 3 or 4 that he put out, and clearly people were buying them. Like his defense is, if you don't like it, don't buy it. And then if I'm still sitting here making money out of it, then why are you complaining?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, obviously, back to G.I. Joe. So, G.I. Joe is resurfacing with Hasbro.
Yeah.
I think they should be hitting very soon. What do you think about? I know when we spoke a couple years back, your response to that was, it's not the right time for that type of figure, for a militaristic type of figure.
Well, I think, how do I say this? I think they needed to, and I think maybe they're in the process of doing this, to rebrand G.I. Joe, because it can't be the real American hero and work globally, because the U.S. military is not liked everywhere. Whether we're doing right or not, I'm not disparaging the military. I think we're doing the right thing for the most part. But whether or not we're doing the right thing, you can do the right thing 100% and still have people hate you. So I don't think with the way the military is viewed globally that you can sell G.I. Joe globally.
Correct.
But I think, like, if you reframe it as a global peace force or a global anti-terrorism team, I don't see why it's not going to work. Yeah. I mean, Mission Impossible works. Jason Bourne works. You can just wrap that into a G.I. Joe film, and I'll watch it and be happy.
And well, they are working on it's the Snake Eyes movie, I think, that they're working on. And the guy that they have for him.
I mean, I don't know how much hope I have for the G.I. Joe films. I wasn't a fan of the first two, and like, I get that if you watch the cartoons now, the cartoons are kind of dopey. Like, that's fine. The cartoons are from the 80s. They were made for 11 to 13-year-olds or 8 to 13-year-olds or whatever it is. And I feel like people have said, oh, the first movie was just like a cartoon. And I was like, yeah, but the cartoons suck now. You know what I mean? Like, you can make G.I. Joe cool, and it just wasn't cool to me. So I don't know if it's going to work or not. Regardless, I think it's awesome that they're doing the Black Series or the Classified. For me, I feel like it just missed sort of my interest window, because people have been asking for 6-inch G.I. Joe for
years,
8 years, 10 years, for a long time.
Well, before the 6-inch Black Series came out, but like once the Black Series came out and started taking off, people were like, "Look, the Black Series go with my Legends, and they go with this. So give me the Joes. That's their other big license." And they were like, "No, no, no, no." And now
they've always. And I kind of get it, because at the time they were doing Modern Joe, and it was 4-inch. So the difference between 4-inch and 6-inch is like, am I going to be cutting my own dollars by trying to sell both of these? Like, if I was a Snake Eyes in 4-inch and a Snake Eyes in 6-inch next to each other, the customer's going to buy one, not the other. Exactly, but not the 4-inch. So you're basically saying we're going to let the 4-inch fail because we're moving to 6-inch. So at the time they weren't going to do it because they were invested in 4-inch. That's ended now. I guess they're fully invested in 6-inch. But to me, it's like, I think I've gone back to the RAH stuff, the 80s stuff. Like, I have all the modern stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is nice, but that original stuff was like, that's the stuff I want now. So I'm in a terrible position, because now I'm like, do I really want to spend $800 on a mint on card Snake Eyes? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the exclusive one that came out, right?
No, the original, like the 80s.
Oh, the original. Okay.
Because I don't think I'm going to get the 6-inch ones. I like them. I think Snake Eyes looks great. I think Destro's perfect. I think Scarlet needs a new deco. I don't think she looks Scarlet-y enough.
I like Roadblock.
But I'm excited. I like Roadblock. He looks good to me. I think Duke is like, he's got too much gold on him. I have nitpicks. Like, they look great. They're awesome figures. But like, the thing, and I can't speak for everybody who's in the business, but having worked in the business now, and I think I might have said this to you, when I go into a toy store now, I don't look at cool toys. I look at production problems, which sucks. Like, I look at a figure and I'm like, I don't see like a cool Snake Eyes. I think, oh man, I wonder if they had undercut issues, or I wonder how many times they had to, whatever. It's always an issue that I'm seeing, and never the enjoyment of the actual figure, which sucks, but that's the way it is.
Now, when you were with Mezco, you were overseas sometimes, or
I went a couple of times late in my tenure. I went to Hong Kong and China twice. I think 2017, 18, or late 18, 19. One of those, I can't remember. But it was awesome. I mean, I've been to Japan on vacation, but never to Hong Kong or to China. And just having been a fan of toys forever, it was cool to walk into a factory and see like parts of toys just coming out. I'm like, this is where they're made. This is awesome.
Is it like a kid in a candy shop type of feeling? Like, actually being.
It really was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a factory. They're not like sunny, shiny places. It's work, and it's just like stuff is just coming out of conveyor belts. But it's just cool to be in the place where the toys were made. That was a great experience that I will. I don't want to say cherish. That seems too strong, but I'll value that experience forever.
Do you hope, like, in the future, maybe wherever, if you're with the company you're with, or maybe another company down the road, that eventually you'll have your hand back in that basket again and be able to go over there and do some of the quality control stuff, where it's like, okay, it's cool, I did it, I enjoyed it, I saw it, move on?
I don't know. I think I feel a little bit of both. I would love to get back into it, just because the creative aspect of it was amazing to me. Just like starting with nothing, creating an idea, and then seeing that through to a physical product was amazing. But production is not for the weak of heart. That is a stress-fueled business. It's deadlines all the time.
Because we screw it up.
Exactly, yeah. And there's always a problem. You know, there's always a fire that needs to be put out, and that part wasn't fun. But it's also part and parcel.
Yeah. So let me see. I'm gonna look at some of the comments here. With Marvel license, with Mezco, why have we never got? And I'm just gonna cut real quick, guys. Pierre's answering what he can. If you haven't followed, or if you're just tuning in, he's no longer with Mezco. He is our Mezco aficionado for right now, and we will ask him some questions, but of course, obviously, there's some things that he might not be able to answer. So just keep that in mind. We have no problem reading some of the comments. Pierre, you're cool with me reading you some of the comments on this?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Right, so with Marvel license with Mezco, why have we never got Avengers completed MCU? Not that I really wanted all those, or even comic book form. Mezco seemed too slow. Is this? I think that's a snail emoji. Roll on it. You said Wildcats, which is at DC now, which we know. Hope someone makes them. You want to touch on any of that? Pierre froze up. Oh,
I can. Yeah. I'll say that. I don't know what the tally is now, but over the course of a year, you're maybe getting 20 figures, 40 figures. I forget what the number of figures is that we were rolling out. I know we were soliciting 2 or 3 a month or whatever it was. But let's say in the course of a year, you get 12 Marvel figures, which I don't think we're actually doing. But let's err on the high end and say 12 figures in a year. So you got to pick those 12 figures, and you don't want to pick them all from the movies. You don't want to pick them all from the comics. You want to pick and choose so that if you have a customer who's not a fan of the movies, you haven't lost a customer for the entire year.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like, if they're not following the movies and they're only following a comic, and you're a company that only puts out movie stuff, that is attention to your company for a year. You don't want that. So you want to give them an assortment of stuff. This happens with every company. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. You're good.
All right. I was just going to say, there are companies. I don't want to say it's easy for Hasbro, but if Hasbro puts out an assortment, they have the Marvel license. So like they can do an X-Men series of figures, and then you're getting 8 figures or whatever it is, maybe 12 Marvel figures a year, and we're picking and choosing from all over the place.
Yeah.
By nature, we had to be more about the figures we were choosing. And then specifically with the MCU stuff, it was never a straight line between reference and product. So, you know, you have to go to the licensor and be like, let us see what these characters look like. Then we can choose who we're making. We're going to see about starting the project and see where it goes. That stuff is changing up until months before the movie is made. So like,
especially now with like everything being digital, they could change the way a uniform looks, like basically right before the movie's released.
Exactly. So I'm gonna tell you an example that's not about Marvel. It's about an older license that Mezco was doing. We did. I wasn't a part of this, by the way, but we did a Wolfman figure for the Wolfman movie that Benicio del Toro, I think, was in years and years ago.
Okay.
And the figure was done. The figure was produced. It was about to ship, and then the licensor was like, "Hey, by the way, he doesn't stand like that anymore. We've changed the CGI." And it's like, but we made the figure based on the reference you gave us. And they were like, yeah, but it changes in post. So like you've committed resources, time, all of this stuff to a product that could potentially land at stores and be out of date. You know what I mean? So doing anything movie related, you have to meet the deadline of the movie. You have to try and make it to on shelf by the movie to catch the excitement. You need the right reference. You need production to run, smoothly. And those, you can say that all, but to get it actually to happen is that almost never happens. So the movie stuff was hard.
I know what you're talking about, because I know some people, Hasbro, right? Obviously, so Hasbro can drop, like I think right now they're dropping like 4 waves almost at the same time. So that's 7 to 8 figures per wave. Four full waves being dropped at the same time. So they have that, and obviously their price point versus what your price point was is obviously a bigger difference. But during the, was it in-game, I think, went the quantum suits, which was that, that I think was in-game.
That was in-game.
So the 2-packs that they put out were different than what the final production was in the movie. And people were like, oh, well, these suits look like this, but this is what they look like in the movie. Perfect example. Yeah. They probably got the reference material, you know, way ahead of time, and last minute the decision was made, oh, we want them to be this color instead of this color. And now you have 100,000 of these figures shipping, and it's like, you really can't just scrap them. So yeah,
one other quick example. Sorry, I just wanted to say real quick, a company like Hasbro, they can put out the entire Avengers team this year, and they'll just know in 3 years we can make all the Avengers again, slightly differently, and we can sell them again. We never had the luxury of Mezco. Like, you can make Captain America. In 3 years, we don't want to revisit Captain America because we've got the rest of the Marvel Universe to do. And then we also have to space out the heavy hitters. So if we did the entire Avengers or the entire X-Men lineup right off the bat, and you're only an X-Men fan, you're like, okay, cool, I got what I want. Mezco can go whatever.
Thank you.
You know, if we give you Wolverine this year, exactly, yeah, and then peace out. But like, you know, we did Captain America, we did whoever, Iron Man. We never did a Thor for the comic stuff because it was like we would be ramping up to make our own comic-based Thor, and then the movie came along. And it was like, okay, let's do movie-based Thor, which means we can't do comic Thor because then they're going to hit at the same time, and that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
exactly. So that, you know, comic book Thor ends up getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. It's still a heavy hitter. It's still going to be a big deal when it happens. But I still say we. Mezco didn't have the luxury of just being like, here's the Avengers, enjoy every one of them.
Yeah,
it didn't, for us, it didn't work that way.
Perfect example again. I don't know if you follow Star Wars, but today Hasbro did a live fan event, and even though I'm a fan and I like what they're doing, they're putting figures that have already been out on the classic cards. So I think it was Forlom and forget who the other one was, but the Bounty Hunters. So they're reissuing those figures on a card, which when they first came out were hard to get. So people were paying aftermarket prices on these, and then finally they came down a little bit. They were able, you know, they balanced out. Everybody pretty much has them, but now for those people that are like completists, they're gonna go buy those figures again because they're $20, not because they're $120.
That is absolutely the luxury of the Star Wars brand, and it's kind of similar to what I was saying, where Hasbro can give you Captain America, and the next year they can give you another one, and they can be reassured that they'll still sell enough to make it. You can
same figure, but just put it on a different box or put it on a card, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, that card's dope."
The
like,
fan base is there.
Card. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
And a lot of people don't realize that. And you know, for me, I'm like, it looks cool. I like it. I am a fan, but I already have one of that. I might have two of that. Like, you know, but for those the complete on card people, they're like, yo, I need this whole wave because it's got all the classic. Which is, you know, it's cool.
It's a guaranteed sale for them. Like, Hasbro knows that.
It is. They know that straight off the bat. They're like, we don't even have to worry about, like, I saw in one of the forums, people were like, I don't know if you saw the carbonized figures that they're doing.
No.
So with the Mandalorian, they did they're calling it carbonized, and basically it's like a metallic gloss paint on it, which when the first Mandalorians came out, they were having issues because there were paint chips. So I think it was in one of the game figures they did, the GameStop exclusives, the paint was chipping off. So, but people were still buying them. Now they're continuing to go. They're coming out with, they're reissuing Boba Fett with carbonized. They just showed the Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader carbonized, and it's like,
there you go.
It's the same figure, carbonized paint, but people are going to buy it because obviously you and I both know that the collectors of that brand, they're going to buy them, and it's a variant. Obviously, like you guys with the Batman, you had a million variants on it. but I think they're a little bit worse because at least the Batman was a different. It wasn't just a paint. It was a paint deco, but it served its purpose.
I was gonna say with Batman, the variants we were doing for the most part, not all of them, but
You changed it up a little bit.
We changed them up, but they're also canon. Like black and gray is a canon Batman, but so is blue and gray.
Yeah.
So is all black. So and I think people are aware now that we're going to do variants. So if they see Batman and they don't like that colorway, they probably know if I wait, I'm going to see one I like. So I don't have to buy this one for 85. I can wait and get the one I really want. Whereas I mean, I think people probably still know that about Hasbro, but at $20, it's way easier to just buy it anyway. Where with $80, that's not that easy. So.
Yeah. All right. So somebody's saying that Mez hates Robin. Is that why we haven't seen Robin?
I
did hear that at one point. I did hear that too. There's certain versions I would like. The little tiny shorts I think we could do without, but
I think there is a version of Robin that makes sense. And it wouldn't surprise me if it happened sometime. I mean, I can't speak to it obviously because I'm not there, but I'll just leave it there.
All right, we're cool with that. We're cool with that. I think I get answered this one. Somebody's asking when we're getting the Mezco Batmobile. I think that was kind of scrapped for right now.
It was.
It was a lot of
a monster, by the way.
It was. That thing was huge. I remember. I think you were showing it to me though, and it like fell apart at Toy Fair or something like that. There was a slight issue with it.
Yeah, it was fragile. It was enormous. It was all 3D printed and it was glued together and shipped. And it didn't survive the shipping. So we got it at Toy Fair and opened the box and it was just like parts of a Batmobile. And we had this big case for it to go in and parts of Batmobile, and we were freaking out. And thankfully, the guys over at NECA, they had their guys, sculptors over there, and we're like, we can help you out. And we're like, oh my god, thank you, you guys are awesome. So they glued it back together for us.
Yeah, I remember that. They were running over there trying to piece it back. Let me see. Do you still collect any of the Mezco stuff?
Do I still collect any? I don't collect a lot of anything these days. I don't want to say I went cold turkey, but my interest in collecting went down the longer I was in the business. It was like one line was going this way, one line was going that way. I don't collect I don't really collect anything anymore. I still like G.I. Joe, and I collect the customs that I'm making. And I might see one-offs that I really like. Like if I saw that the Ecto-1 Transformer that came out in the classic packaging last year, and I was like, I have to have that. But that might have been one of two toys I bought last year. So like, what's
the last toy that you brought?
The last toy that I bought, I think it was the 1,000 Toys Hellboy.
Okay.
And I didn't even hold on to that. I got it, and I was like, is this going to go in my, like, I'm a mint and package collector, and the longer I go as a mint and, what's that?
I said, like a lot of us.
Yeah. But the longer I go as a mint and package collector, the less it makes sense to me. Okay. Like I'll buy a new toy. I'm like, this thing is great. I'm going to put it right in my closet and never see it again. And I had to move in at the end of December, and I was going through all my stuff, and I'm like, I got like 4 closets, like big closets just full of toys that I haven't seen since the day I bought them. So I was like, why do I keep buying new toys? It's silly.
I feel your pain. Yeah, I feel your pain. My wife says that. She's like, well, when are you gonna stop buying? She's like, because you don't do anything with half of these. Like some of them you have to open,
But you have them though. That's the important part. You might not do anything with them, but you own them.
I have them. What it was cool. Like I think going back like 5 or 6 years ago, I started taking pictures. I think I had emptied out like a storage unit. So I had everything at my house at one point, and I was like, "Oh, let me take pictures of everything that I have." What I was gonna do with it, I don't know. But so I took all these pictures, and then I keep a lot of like family pictures and stuff on a hard drive. So I had the hard drive, and since I've been home, I was like, let me go through it. So I start scrolling through this, and I see a lot of stuff, And I'm like, wow, I forgot I had this. I forgot I had that. I was like, let me just go on eBay and see how much these are. And so I don't know if you know, like McFarlane, he made the Jaws boat, right?
Yep.
That thing goes for a pretty penny. And
Nice, all right.
so I knew that years ago, and then I totally forgot I had it. So like I came across that. There was a couple other ones where like I think one Christmas, I think Walmart had like a Star Wars gift set with like the animated figures, and it was like you got like 6 or 8 of them in like a pack, and it was only like 25 or 30 bucks. So I went on there and I looked, and not even like intentionally looking, but like 2 of the figures are worth like $100. I was like,
oh wow.
I was like, I didn't even know, you know. So it was kind of fun. I was like, oh cool, I got that, you know. But yeah, trust me, I know.
I had one of almost everything I worked on at Mezco. Almost everything. Not every, I decided like I don't think I need these. Like I kept some of them. Some of them like meant something to me. Other ones were just figures I worked on. And
if you got Blade and you ever want to get rid of it, oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean I cleared out everything. I had four closets full of stuff, and I think I maybe have a closet worth of stuff now. So I feel like an addict
so
weaning himself off this stuff.
You literally almost went like cold turkey.
Yeah, I really did. It had been happening, you know, and it was just like, it was the push that I guess just pushed me over the edge. I was like, I don't need to. Moving was really what did it, because then you really have to take stock of what you have and why you have it, and is it important enough to move and find space for in a new place? And for the most part, the answer was no for me.
At least you were strong enough to do that. I can't say that I would. When I moved, my wife was like, "All right, all this shit's getting donated." I was like, "No, wait, I need that." She's like, "Why do you need?"
I had the same thing. My wife was like, "Do that. We can do that. We can do adult stuff." So the toys not everywhere like they were in the old place.
Yeah. Well, that's why we need them to kind of balance us out sometimes, because otherwise we
totally
just run
100%.
Now, do you feel that you being not directly involved with, let's say, an action figure type of company, that in a way that kind of allowed you to disconnect from the collector mentality, or just like you don't need to be as involved as maybe you were before?
I think honestly the change for me started happening when I was still at Mezco, and it was sort of like it was like looking behind the curtain. It was like really being into magic, and then watching the magicians do the tricks, and you're like, that's not magic. It's just like it's sleight of hand. It's whatever it is. Yeah. So like I saw the industry. I saw the results of production in a different way, and like I was saying, I would see problems instead of cool toys, and that was a lot of it to me. Like I don't want to have all these things that exactly. So it kind of it robbed me. It kind of robbed me of my joy for toys in a way, but then it also gave me an immense amount of knowledge that I didn't have before. So it was a fair trade, I guess.
What was the last figure that you were directly involved with at Mezco?
I don't know if I can talk about it because I don't know that it's been revealed yet. For sure.
If you tell me,
I
won't
there's
tell
definitely
anyone.
some stuff. It's funny because the timeline for these figures is so long, that there's stuff that I was working on that isn't public knowledge yet. So I'm actually looking forward to. Oh, hey, hello.
I nosy one.
I'm actually looking forward to the time when that I talk about. Like I want to feel the joy that most people do when they see something for the first time. And I never got that because I would always see it working through all the paces. So that's one of the cool things that's awesome to me about Rumble Society, is that I'd heard the idea and the concept for it and the direction it was going to go in, and then to see these things start to roll out. I mean, I'd seen Baron Ben's, but like I want to see the next one. You know, I want to see like the Marvel figure I didn't work on, whatever it is. So
that you kind of just heard about, but didn't see like the protos or anything of.
exactly, or even ones I didn't hear about. Like concept art is happening all the time. Maybe sometimes tied to something that's going to happen the following year, sometimes not. So I'm sure I haven't been there for almost a year now. Probably dozens of bits of concept art for stuff coming, and I want to see that stuff because to me that's gonna be exciting without all the unfortunate trappings of I remember when we had trouble with his suit, or I remember when we messed up the paint job. I can see it for what it is and be like, that's awesome. Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that I kind of heard, and I'm sure you're not gonna really elaborate on it, but obviously there was some frustration with a few different figures with delays and the fact that so there's two questions in there. So the delays, the fact that you would pre-order something maybe a year in advance, some figures even longer than that. People were like, what are we doing? Like is this a indirect Kickstarter? Like that you're doing a GoFundMe for that figure, and then once you have enough for that project, then it gets produced. I'm sure you probably can't say much on
that. It was definitely never that. That was never the problem. Like financing, we wouldn't have announced a 112 project and then just kept our fingers crossed that it would fund. Because if it doesn't fund, then you look bad for showing it and then never making it.
Of course.
So the goal was never to show you something, have you pre-order it, and then be like, we needed 5,000 more orders. We can't make that. That was never something that was going to happen. The timeline and I've said this before, the timeline for every project is different for many different reasons. It would be nice if every project ran smoothly. That never happens. There's always a problem somewhere along the line.
Of course. Yeah.
And it varies from project to project. It can be catastrophic delays or it can be nothing. So, I can't really say more than that, not because I don't want to, because there isn't much more to say than that. Sometimes the project runs smoothly and sometimes it doesn't. And you can go one step further and say, if you focus on this one single project, you can make it run on time. And that's possible. You can have a project that comes out in less than a year or in 6 months or whatever it is.
You gotta have all hands on that project and not.
Yeah. You can't have that amount of focus for every project because there's not enough man hours in the week to do that. So it's an apology that I made all the time to people who are collecting 112. I had varying degrees of control over the delays, work harder, work, better. But you can't eliminate all the delays. The delays are just part of it. And if it's still an issue, and it might be, I don't know. I don't see that changing. And if you're like 5 years in, 6 years into 112 and still complaining about the delays, then you're in 112.
Exactly. You should be used to it by now. Just
exactly. And I'm not saying it's acceptable, but at least it should be common knowledge that they never come out on time. And if you're still complaining about that, I can't help you. I mean, I still can't help you, but if I was still a Mezco, I still wouldn't be able to help you.
Like the Ghostbusters, that was one thing. That's one thing that kind of comes to mind, where that was shown 2 year prior, give or take. Maybe even a little bit longer than that. And then by the time it was actually delivered, it was, I know people were like, geez, like, when's this thing gonna ship? And
there were, I don't want to say that was a special case because, like I was saying, none of them pretty much run smoothly. But Ghostbusters, the way the clothing had to be made, like it's not a simple suit. It's not just a single layer jumpsuit. There's screening on it. There's the electronics. I mean, there were complications at every step. How do you package them? Is it a 4-pack? Are they released individually? If they're released individually, does one sit and 3 of them sell? You know what I mean? There was all kinds of conversations that went into making that work, and it took, however long it took.
It's funny you say that about if you.
I like to think.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I like to think that when it finally comes out, the people are happy with it. Like you might have to wait for a 112 figure, but I don't think they've disappointed. I don't want to say that because I don't talk to every single person. But
very few negative reviews or negative comments. Obviously, people nitpick, and there might be like one or two things, you know, but for the most part, I think everybody's, once the products are delivered, are usually pretty happy about it. I think the only thing that I've really heard, and I think you guys tried to correct that, it was one or two of the female figures. I think there was a few issues with or people just weren't. I don't know if it was Catwoman or Wonder Woman. It was one of them where I know people weren't happy with it, and I think you attempted to correct it on the next female that came out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the goal, and I've said this before, the goal was never to ship bad product. You know what I mean? Like,
what company really wants to?
Exactly. So if there's a delay, it's not because we're making the product worse. You know, every delay was related to try and make it better. Not that it's maybe poor consolation, because if you pay for something, you want to own it right away, and I totally get that. But
yeah,
you know,
damn, what was I gonna say? What would you say is the quickest turnaround time from like inception of the concept art to production being shipped and everything like that on a product that you worked with there?
I think I'll answer the question in a different way. I think the fastest you can get something from concept through production is like 8 months, 10 months. So like in a perfect world, we put up something for pre-order that we've already made. That never happens because part of I'm not going to get into that part. Very rarely would something be put up for pre-order that was already manufactured, unless it was a Toy Fair exclusive. I forget what I was going with that. I just totally lost my train of thought.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, that's getting old sucks.
So there's a comment over here. Obviously, we're talking about the female figures, and somebody says Catwoman snapping limbs. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. And just so anybody watching, it happened to one of my own where I took her out, and literally I took her out of the package and it snapped. So don't think that whoever is commenting like you were the only person. Obviously, it was something that was known. Can you touch on?
Yeah, I think I can. Maybe I'll get into trouble later. Who knows? So like, we spend literally months and months making a figure, getting samples, testing this, testing that. It goes into production. Production ships, and then we start hearing about problems. It's like we don't get to go to the factory and test all of them.
Yeah,
we don't. There's somebody who's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So then Catwoman lands, and all of a sudden, people are opening them and the legs are snapping. That's not even something we could have corrected because it wasn't happening. You know what I mean? It didn't happen until the figures were done and on the shelf. And at that point, it was like, we have to make more of these. Like, essentially, we have to make up for that.
Yeah.
Because whatever you might think about Mezco or about 112, I don't, at least in my time there, and that's all I can speak for, we were never stealing your money. You were getting something from us, and if it wasn't good, we were going to make it right. And that, for the Catwoman, that's exactly what happened there.
Yeah, and I can honestly say, yeah, and I can honestly say that any of the products that I got from Mezco, if there was an issue, I think the Catwoman was one issue. I think another one, was one of the Punishers. I had like the wrist peg like snapped like immediately out the package, and I reached out to you or Drake, and it was always corrected. Whatever could have been done to fix it was always done right away. So I've never had an issue with you guys. And I
feel like fans should know, whether they know it already or whether they need to hear someone say it. Like, the company cares about the fan. And if we're selling a premium product like Mezco is doing with 112, you can't have substandard product and just be like, oh, well, deal with it, because then you lose the customer. And that's not, the company doesn't want that. Trust me, the company wants you to be happy. So if you're unhappy, it's because it's something we can't fix,
Yeah.
or else we would have fixed it. I'm still saying we. I apologize.
It's all right. Look, a lot of people, obviously, like I said, when I shouted out there earlier that we're going to be chatting for a little bit, people were like, what happened to Pierre? Where'd he go? He just kind of like, just disappeared. and I actually, obviously, we're on social media together, so I do see you. But as far as like in the industry, I was like, where'd he go? Like, and you never, the cool thing I think about is like, you never really badmouth Mezco publicly from anything that I've heard. And even like on social media, you just quietly just went and started doing your own thing. And
I don't have anything bad to say at Mezco.
I had no clue what you were doing until we chatted like a week ago. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
yeah, when I left Mezco, I think I wrote a post on 2 of the message boards that I was part of. 2 of the not message boards, I'm sorry, the Facebook pages for 112, because those are the pages that I had been a part of, mm-hmm. And I felt like I owed it to all the people who associated me with 112 or with Mezco, mm-hmm. To not only let them know that I wasn't there anymore, but also to let them know that everything that you liked about 112 is still happening. Like, that wasn't me. I wasn't making that magic. You know what I mean? I was part of a team that was doing that, and that team is still there doing that. So like, I felt like I owed fans. I don't know. It's just weird to me when you're like, oh, you're not, I'm used to seeing you there, and all of a sudden you're a ghost. And I'm like, what happened to you? And no one tells you anything. Like, oh, I don't know. He's not here anymore. So I felt like I owed people that.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything bad to say at Mezco. You know what I mean? Like, I had an awesome time. They were awesome people. It had ups and downs, but every job does. I'm not going to,
You're happier doing what you're doing now?
I am, yes. And I'm less stressed.
Okay. Which is always a huge thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think every time you saw me, that was probably the second thing I told you. I was probably like, hey, how you doing? I'm stressed the fuck right now.
Yeah, pretty much. They always had like a million things going on. So one thing that I always thought is interesting, and do you have time to talk, or you got to go? You got to run?
Yeah. If I drop off for a second, it's because my AirPod goes out, so I'm just going to take it out. But yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. There's a game that you play that I see you doing quite often, and I always find it very interesting.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure once we're done talking about it, people are gonna leave stuff all around the city for you to find. What is it, and how did you start that?
I don't know how it started. It started so long ago, and just as a brief recap for those of you who don't know, I have a thing. I live in New York, so I'm on foot more than I'm ever on the subway, or I'm never in a car, so I'm always walking, and I see playing cards all the time, everywhere. So I started just like picking the card up, and this was like late 90s. I would just walk around and pick the card up.
That far back.
What's up?
That far back, late 90s.
Yeah, it was late 90s. And then our daughter was born. I was like, I can't keep picking trash up off the street now that I have a baby. So I threw that whole collection away. And then I started again taking pictures. And then I don't know, a year or so in, a friend of mine was like, you're not picking the cards up? It would be cool if you had an entire deck by the time you were done. And I was like, damn it, he's right. So I had to start again. So I've actually started this 3 times. And I have, 20 something cards out of 52, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're finding them randomly, it is. And it's funny because I was saying I'm not really into collecting anymore. To me, it's the ultimate in collecting because I have no control over what I'm getting. I need a full set, but I don't know where I'm going to find it. It's cool to just follow the randomness of it.
And you like, do you mark like where you found them at? So like you don't go back to the same spot, or you do go back to the same spot? Yeah.
So when I find the card, I'll take a picture of it. I'll mark it on the map, like a picture of where I found it on the map. And then if I am somewhere and I see like 12 cards on the street, I can only pick one of them for my collection. The rest of them just go to wherever they're going to go.
You can only pick one. That's the rules that you gave yourself.
Because it doesn't seem fair if I'm collecting 52 of something. If I walk up on a deck that's like 48 cards, then I have most of the collection. It takes all the fun out of it. So if I see a spilled deck, I get one pick, and if it's a card I already have, then I'm out of luck. I got to take that one card.
Now, is there a radius of that one card? Like, if, let's say you pick up one card and then you go like around the corner, down the block, and there's another. Can you pick up another?
That's actually happened to me, but they've been from different decks on the same day, like around the corner, different decks. I'm usually very careful, and I know this sounds crazy to people who don't know me. I'm crazy. You should know this. There's something really exciting about a chance encounter and finding this one random card. I can't explain it because it's dumb, but like it makes me happy.
But it's cool. Like the first time I saw you like post about it, I'm like, what the hell is this? And then you posted another one, and then you're like, you know, you're pinning like where you were at, and I'm just like, that's actually kind of cool, like in a weird way. and I was
admittedly, it is really weird.
And I was thinking, I'm like, look, if you were ever to like design a video game, you could design a video game based off of that. It's like you have to run around the city to collect these cards to unlock like some, you know, like each card would open like I don't know, like a secret world or something like that. Like, I don't know.
That's a good idea. I like that.
You know, so if you ever come up with that, you get somebody to design a game. Keep me in mind. It's a funny thing. I like it. You know, hopefully I didn't. You know, other people know about it. Obviously, people that know you, but
it's not a secret.
Yeah, but you, I'm still laughing at you. Said pick up. You couldn't be randomly picking up trash. No, Chad, kidding. Does your daughter ever help you? Like you're out. Does your daughter ever be like?
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll see him sometimes before I see him. And she's old enough now that I can pick. I can't do it now. Let me backtrack. I'm back to picking the physical cards up, so I actually have a collection of physical cards I'm finding. And now I can tell her I can pick up trash, but you don't do that because that's crazy. But I also can't keep doing that now with COVID going around. I'm not picking garbage up off the street. So I've actually seen 3 cards since this started, and I haven't been able to pick them up, and it's bugged the crap out of me.
It hurts you.
First world problem. That's a first world problem right there.
Now, was it a card that you didn't have?
I don't know. I don't. The funny thing is, I don't have a list in my head of what cards I have and what cards I don't. So if I find a deck of cards on the street, it's more than likely that I'll pick up a card I already have. But that's the kind of randomness that I like about this.
Now, if you pick up,
I'm sure there's psychologists out there who have a lot to say about this.
If you pick up a card that you have once you go home, what do you do with it? Do you discard it or do you return it back
I still keep it.
Oh, you still keep it?
Oh, that would be good. I could slow it out. That's pretty good. No, because it's part of the experience. Like if I don't play Pokemon Go, or if you ever played Pokemon, but sometimes you'll end up with the same Pokemon. It's not the end of the world. You just have 2 of them.
Yeah,
so it's like that. Kind of.
Okay. I'm really intrigued by this. I really like that idea. So one of my buddies hit me up and he's like, holy shit, Pierre's Air Max. He's like, I had no idea. Right? Did I say it right? Yeah, Air Max. He's like, I had no idea Pierre was Air Max. So, you know, people follow you and, you know, didn't know that you were you. What is there any projects, and I don't think I asked you this before, is there any projects that you're working on right now that you want to talk about, or that you can talk about?
In terms of personal projects, there are always projects I'm working on, but I almost never talk about them until they're out there because I'm weirdly paranoid about someone beating me to the punch.
Gotcha.
Which is weird because some of the ideas are so random that I don't really think other people would happen upon them. But I like the surprise of just being like, this is a new thing, and not telling you, which is funny. Not telling you about it 8 months out and then making you wait 8 months. We were just talking about that with 112, but I don't like doing that.
Okay. Anything with I'm sorry, brain fart on.
No problem.
Lineage.
Just, I mean, if you like pins on any level, check out Lineage. Go to Big Bad, go to Entertainment Earth, type in Lineage Studios, and check out the Mad Pin game. It's cool stuff.
And that's really become a big thing that I've been seeing. And I've like, for me, well, obviously we go to conventions, over the last couple of years. I've gotten the lanyards. So every now and then you get a pin from here. And actually, I want to blame on Mezco, because I think I got like a couple little Mezco pins. And then I think Four Horsemen gave me one, a couple other people. So I was like, you know what? I need some pins to go on this thing. And you see like Pixel Dan and Dan, what's his name? Action Figure Insider.
Dan, take it.
There you go. He always has, everything on there.
Yeah.
So, and you see other guys, but I was like, let me make one lanyard that I'm put everything on, and that'll be my convention lanyard. But it was just like, it wasn't anything big. And then I hear everybody talking about fig pin this, fig pin that, and the stuff that you're working on. And I'm like, people are really like, one thing that kind of stuck in mind was recently, Emerald City Comic Con was canceled, but Funko and Figpen, they still made sure those exclusives got out there. And two of my buddies were in a group chat, and they were like, oh, the Figpen's going up, it's gonna be whatever, blah blah blah. I think like one was a Bruce Lee and another one was something else, and they sold out like that in seconds. And I'm like, okay, I'm used to seeing the Funko stuff sell out. I'm used to seeing Mezco sell out, NECA sell out, Hasbro. But I was like, really? Like these pens? Like they're really going like that? And they were like, yeah, like they sell out, and the flip on them is you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And I'm just
it's crazy how you can be like super steeped in an industry. Like we're into toys, we're into pop culture, and then all these like subgenres will pop up, like the Funko Pops is a gigantic thing. I've never bought one in my life, but they've probably made more money in the last 5 years than any other toy. And it's an established thing. Yeah, no, like I'm not faulting you. It's totally a thing. And then like pins come up, and I've never bought a pin, but all of a sudden pins are like a thing. So it's cool that collectibles and comics and toys can keep spinning out these sort of things that will get people to collect them, whether they've known about them before or not. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, Randy's he totally despises Funko Pops, and I sent him yesterday. There was like this Iron Maiden set that came out, and he's like a big metalhead. So I sent it to him. I was like, oh, here, dude, there's your first pop. He just sends me to throw up. He's like, I would never buy a pop. And I
don't get them. Like just the form factor doesn't click with me. I don't get them. I think it's awesome that they're out there for people to get. I don't understand why they're as popular as they are, but I'm not going to fault people who are into them.
I was not into them. Somebody got me into them, and then for me it was more or less like the nostalgia of it, where you had Ninja Turtles that I grew up on. You had RoboCop, Judge Dredd. You had
it's all the same format.
And it was all the same format, and obviously over the years they've became cooler, or
right.
Like the sculpt on them has changed a little bit, so they're not as like bobbleheadish looking as when they first came out. I've definitely cut back because I think they oversaturate the market. I kind of
they literally make everything. I think they made my neighbor. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, how did you?
Literally,
they make everything.
Like they make, I have cups, like I did some of the sub boxes, so like, and with their sub boxes, they would just throw a bunch of shit in there. Like, oh, we have a cup, we have a pen, we have a hat and a shirt, and here's one pop. And it's like, I really didn't order that for all that shit. I just want the pop. But so like I have a couple like coffee mugs and stuff like that. My wife was like, "Really, we have to have this?" I'm like, "It was in the thing. It's not like I intentionally."
It was free. Stop complaining.
Technically it was free. Like I really didn't buy it. So but like I've seen them. They do bags, T-shirts, salt shakers, like a lot of stuff. But people buy them, and it's I think it's interesting. At the same time, I think it's more like they're marketed as like a cash grab, if in a way, like they're impulse buy, like they're totally. That $15 to $10 price point where you might not think twice about dumping $10 as to you would be a little more cautious at like $50.
Yep. Plus they work across the board. They work for hardcore collectors, but if your your aunt likes Golden Girls, it's a cute gift for her birthday, even if she's never bought a toy in her life. Like, it makes sense. So they're selling a bunch of those, like a metric shit ton of those things.
Yeah,
And
like that. That's
they've
one thing.
hit on some magic.
Yeah, the Golden Guards.
Yeah.
I never knew that there was such a big market for that. Even when NECA came out with their figures, I'm like, who the fuck wants Golden Girls? And I kind of, it would be cool to have like a Betty White, but who wants that? And like, just surprising, like a lot of people that I know that are like hardcore collectors, like, yo, I need that Golden Girl, and I was just like, man. Okay, like, not knocking anything, because obviously we collect a lot, or I collect a lot of stuff. So
that's the thing. Like, I don't know how you can, like, we were talking about pops, and I wasn't making fun of people who collect them, because like they literally outsell most toys. So like, I don't know how you could make fun of people who collect them if they're in the majority. You know what I mean? Then you're probably wrong for not. So I would say there's a buyer and a fan for everything.
For every market. Yeah. Well, this went a little longer than I anticipated. I enjoyed talking with you. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. First, well, we already talked about it, but I hope you and your family definitely stay safe, stay healthy. I hope your wife feels 100% better, and hopefully there's no residuals down the line or anything like that. I did not know, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, even though you have stuff going on with the family. So thank you, appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me on. It's funny because I was when you asked me to do this, I was like, I don't know if people want to hear from me, because like I never think of myself as the guy. I was always part of the team. So I appreciate that there are people who wanted to hear from me. I think that's awesome. Thank you for doing an interview. I hope you guys got your questions answered.
I think we, any of the questions that were asked, I think we touched on. I'm sure I touched on a few of the other ones. Obviously we're both on forums and stuff like that, so we do see things over the years. And so I did ask a few of the questions that I've seen, and I know you answered pretty much everything as good as you can, and hopefully we didn't get you in any trouble. I'm sure if I got you in trouble, I'm sure I'll also hear it from Drake and be like banned from anything in the future. So then we'll both know that we got in trouble.
There you go.
But thank you for joining us on the coronavirus quarantine edition, and for everybody watching, don't just wash your hands, wash your ass as well. All right, brother. Thank you very much, man.
All right,
Take care.
Take care.